Good evening, everyone, and we are back once again with another book launch and book discussion. As you know, the Significant League, uh, I'm sure many of you would have joined together. We are here to celebrate and to launch our very own Lopa Mudra Banerjee, whom we lovingly call Lopa,
Hi.
who's one of the admins of TSL. And we have the founder of the group, Dr. Koshi, Santosh Ji, of course, Dr. Santosh Bakaya, the academician, essayist, TEDx speaker. Then we have Sadbir Chadhadi, who is again a very distinguished poet, writer, and uh, somebody whom we all look up to. And Priscilla has still not joined. Lopa Mudra and Priscilla Rice have come together and they have a book called We Are What We Are. And that is the book which we are going to launch and read from. So, this is Lopa, as we all know, Lopa Mudra. She is a very powerful and an intense poet and a writer. And Priscilla also, after reading the book, I found that she's a very distinguished poet, and both of them, it's so beautiful that they are in US, and while Lopa is from India and Priscilla is from she's from Texas, I think. And she has, both of them have come together, collaborated, and co authored this beautiful book, which is called We Are What We Are. So, after giving this brief introduction, I would now ask uh, Dr. Koshi, who is trying to set his camera once again, to give a. I'll hand over the mic to him to tell us something
Yeah,
about the
can
book,
you hear?
and after that we shall have the launch.
Yeah,
So,
can you
all
hear
of you
me, guys?
who are, yes, yes, we can. And may I request everyone else to kindly mute when it's your turn to speak. Only then unmute yourself. Otherwise, kindly mute your mics so that there's no disturbance. Priscilla is still to join us.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm sorry that in the middle I had to like crawl out and crawl in again because I was trying to find the ideal place to sit and speak in a calm manner. So here we go. And we have this beautiful book we are going to launch today called We Are What We Are, which is by Lopa Banerjee and Priscilla Rice, who will hopefully also join us from Texas.
Yeah, she
And Lopa
just
herself is
called.
from
She's
Texas.
trying. She's trying to join, she said.
Yeah. So, what we are going to do is, I first want to situate this book in present day literary theory. And I want to talk about how it can be classified as being very close to what we call ethnic studies nowadays. So, to give you a brief talk about ethnic studies is actually global discourses regarding human freedom, race, racism, structural violence, colonialism, legalized discrimination, assimilation, and the resulting impacts of such processes. It also deals with ethnic diversity, indigenous and liberationist epistemologies, community and identity formation, artistic productions, and activism on the social, legal, and public policy front. It deals with migration and diasporas, the state, inequality and resistance, identities, and representation. And it also is about um, Under it comes Asian American, Asian diaspora studies, Chicano Native American studies, comparative ethnic studies, and things like that. So that I hope works as a good introduction. So writers like Lopa, Priscilla Rice, Elizabeth Marino, Leslie Marmon Silver, who's very famous. Perhaps Lopa has heard of her, are all writers who come under this banner. Now, to come to this book, why I gave that highly intellectual introduction is because right from the beginning, this book reminded me of these literary theories. The first part is called Diaspora.
I think Dr. Koshi, the connection has. So I think in the meantime,
Lopa, you have written an excellent book, and we are so proud of you. It is an excellent book. All the pieces, Lopa and Priscilla, excellently written book. And Dr. Koshi's afterward, here, critic review and afterward. It is a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece, very intellectually stimulating, very enlightening, and very erudite. He is an erudite scholar, of course. So I read it for the third or fourth time today. And initially I had read it, and it is beautifully done. And it has enriched the book beyond doubt. Of course, this cover, Riti Chatterjee, is she there? Is she watching us? So this is a beautiful cover too. In fact, I love the cover and the symbolism inherent therein. And Dr. Koshi is trying to enter. He is there, and a big salute to him.
I'm really sorry that I got thrown out, but we have a beautiful new entry. That's Priscilla, and she can listen to us. Hi, Priscilla. Very happy to see you. So, may I continue? Okay. Yeah. So, to continue, right from the beginning, Lopa's first poem is called Diaspora. And I wanted to read these lines from it. What's interesting is it was in a collection called Hyphenated Identities that it was published. And there is this line here which is very interesting. First, she says, I let the rivers of my life run haywire. And that refers to the fact that, diaspora in the case of many people nowadays is a kind of choice where you willingly enter into the realm of diaspora. And then she talks about something which I really want to talk about for a brief minute. In that sacrosanct moment of a dark throated song, the confluence of the East and West wrote its script of diaspora within my being like an irreconcilable truth, like the whisper of an omniscient God, she writes. So, this is a topic that has been much dealt with, the meeting of the East and the West, whether it is possible or not. And Lopa seems to suggest that it's possible to have a confluence of the East and the West. Now, the second poem I want to briefly talk about is Hello, Darkness, My Old Friend. It's not a poem, it's actually a personal essay. But there she deals with the Indian version of racism, whereby in India people sometimes, look askance at people who have dark skin. So she writes, sentences like this: She is not fair like a father, went after her mother. Uh, the color of your sari suits you, makes you look 2 shades fairer. Women surrounding her giggled about her mother. She's talking about her mother and how she faces the same issue, and her daughters face the same issue even in USA. So how like it's a universal problem that if a woman is born with dark skin, Some people try to make out that, that's not a good thing, which is partly patriarchy bound. Even Santosh has poems about that, about very powerful poems. And I'm very happy to be in this panel with such powerful writers like Santosh and Sunita and Sabbir and Priscilla and Lopa. But I like this line: together in our brown skins, we found ourselves, filling up with colors and scent, shadows and cool light, in the splattered splashes of Bengali vernacular music, of love, of poetry. So, by the end of the essay, we find that there's an overcoming of the discrimination against brown skin. And these are all themes I mentioned earlier. And there's a powerful poem, We Are What We Are, about women, pathbreakers, trailblazers and survivors, and purveyors bursting with perverse pleasure, out to badmouth and belittle one of their own kin. She goes on like that.
So let's have the launch, Dr. Koshi. I would request all of you. Hi, Priscilla. Good to have you here.
Have
And
I finished?
yeah.
Have I finished my 5 minutes?
Uh, if you want, if there's more you want to go on, then go on. It's more than that. But if
Oh,
you
sorry.
want to go ahead for another, no, that's okay. If you want to speak more for 2-3 minutes, then we can have the launch later.
Yeah,
Sunita,
I
let
do
him
want to speak.
speak for just 2 minutes.
Okay, just
Yes,
two more.
please go on.
Just 2 more minutes. So, throughout this book, there's this wonderful poem called Otherness, and I think someone else may talk about it. And then there's this talk about food and her mother's kitchen and her grandmother, and about menstruation. And there's also this powerful poem called Indianness, the metaphor of the misfit. Because of all these things, this is a very powerful collection. And there's this poem called On the Earth Day. Now, when we come to Priscilla, I am really sorry, that I am not getting much time. But she says, when I'm asked where I'm from, I always say Texas or Southwest Texas. Both are true. And after that, she says, I identify as a multi ethnic Mexican American woman. And taking off from there, her poems are also very powerful. I'd really love to read that. But some things I want to say is Better Bell is a tribute not only to her grandparents but to the farm workers who feed us day by day. And in Queso, a manifesto, she says, I had never been called Mexican before. Uh, I like the word Chicana, but the way they said Mexican was as if it was a bad word. Facing that in your own country, it reminds me of the Dalits, whom Lopa also mentions. And I could go on and go on about her mother, doing a limpia, a cleansing of her spirit, and how tradition is deeply embedded in us like DNA, which is very Indian. And how many languages can you actually speak, which is something we face in India. And there is, her fascination with Selena. But the poem that really brought me almost to tears is Santos, because that is one hell of a poem, and that is really the kind of poetry that speaks of resistance and the state and state brutality and how to fight it through art and poetry. I would like to. I really like to spend so much more time talking about this. I'm very sorry that I can't. But finally, I think I'll end with the feminist note where she says, I am a complete mess of a woman, a broken stained glass window, of too many things, of hot red emotions, of Southwest Texas Tierra of sweet sun tea, too sugary, too fiery, too much, extra as fuck. I think I'll end there. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak for so long. Now let's have the launch.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Since I don't have the book, why don't all of you hold up the books so that we can have the launch. Priscilla? Yeah.
Who is going to take a photograph? Priscilla, we can't see
Priscilla,
the
can
book.
you like shift the book a little bit? Yeah, now it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, it's more.
Yeah.
And a little down, Priscilla, because we can't see your face fully.
I'm sure somebody who's
Yeah, I
watching,
hope, like
Febby,
Avantika. There are only
yes,
two
last
people
time.
watching. I hope
2 people
somebody.
watching? How many people are there, Dr. Koshi?
I don't know. I don't want to look there right now. Let's go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead now.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Lopa.
Thank you.
Hearty
Beautiful.
congratulations. Great, Priscilla and Lopa. Hearty congratulations.
Congratulations,
Hats off.
Priscilla. All the best.
Okay. Okay, so now may I request Lopa to say something about her book. But before that, let's hear Dr. Santosh Bakaya, Dr. Santosh D, as we say, to speak a few words and to read out from this beautiful book.
Okay, am I supposed to speak before Lopa? Has the order been changed?
No, the order, if you would like to speak just now, else I'll give the mic to Lopa then. Lopa, please carry on.
What I was trying to
Tell
suggest.
us,
Thank you.
tell us. Okay,
Thank-
okay. Lopa,
Thank
go
you.
on then.
He wants
Say,
to read. Just
we would like,
Thank you.
no, we want you to hear from you about the book.
Okay. So thanks, Sunita. Thanks, Lopa. Thanks, Dr. Koshi and Priscilla. You're looking beautiful, Priscilla. Can you hear me? And Dr. Koshi, that was a very erudite, very enlightening and intellectually stimulating discussion. And I have been reading your afterwards. It has been beautifully written. So hearty congratulations, Priscilla and Lopa, for this wonderful work. And let me tell you, Lopa and I have edited many anthologies together, maybe 3, 4. But let me confess, it was she who did most of the work. Okay, 4. It was she who did most of the work. And she is very diligent. And whatever she writes with an impassioned intensity and a single-minded concentration. And she writes. And she writes also. And there are fiery outbursts in the book. And trying to seek the essence of her self-identity away from home. So this is a beautiful book. I really love this book. In fact, I love whatever she writes. I really loved this book, Thwarted Escape. And at this juncture, if you'll allow me, I would love to quote from this Still With Me, wherein she writes about Kolkata, she writes about her home. Every night you come back to my arms in a sweet surrender. Every night you come back to my arms in a sweet surrender. Together we weep our unnamed tears as the kettle of my girlhood days hisses, sharp, shrill, inviting. And she ends this essay with, the old concealed wiring, the dusty telephone and cable wires mock our bonhomie. You touch my weary, dusky form, lift my luggage, my long forgotten home. Together we burn. These are beautiful lines from this book, Thwarted Escape, which is also a masterpiece. So now let me come to this. We are what we are, Lopa Modra and Priscilla Rice. This is again a masterpiece. Both of you, the way you've written the poems, the different prose pieces, and the illustrations, they are just beautiful. And of course, the cover, as I said earlier, the cover is also excellent. So, with your permission, Sunita and Dr. Ampat Koshi, Dr. Sadbirji, and Priscilla and Lopa, let me quote something from the preface. My preface? This is my preface, yeah. In this collaborative venture, we are what we are. Lopa Mudra and Priscilla Rice both come across as feisty feminists, unabashedly unleashing their twin collaborative energies, singing primal songs of ethnicity, gender, and identity, which find expression in their powerful poems, essays, and monologues. Beautiful. And let me, say something here about this poem of Priscilla Rice. In Simply Be, Priscilla echoes almost the same emotions as Lopa Mudra when she says, I want to recognize all of my identities in that tree. Mesquite, is that the way you pronounce it? Tree from childhood. She says, today I ate some homemade bread sent over by my tia Olga that brought a tear to my eye. Recalling the childhood tree, which was the keeper of her adolescent secrets, swinging from tire swings, in your silence you spoke to me. This is exactly what Lopa Mudra also talks about in one of her poems.
Yeah.
So she talks about the coconut tree, the dogs and the cats of her neighborhood, and nibbling on leftovers, the clumsy streets of Calcutta in thwarted escape.
And rusty swings.
So if I have time, I'll go on. I want to recite a couple of stanzas, I think, from both Priscilla Rice's poem and poems and Lopa's. So this is the first poem, Love Poem for America, and the other one is about Kolkata, the way she juxtaposes her emotions. She is caught between two worlds, America and Kolkata. And as she says, I don't know whether she still feels so. This was a thwarted escape for her. This was a thwarted escape coming from Kolkata to America. So this love poem for America, just a few stanzas, not the entire poem because it's pretty long. I have drunk you whole, your silent fumes and labels, your grocery stores and undusted streets, the way I have drunk my morning coffee, but our childhood is unshared. You, for instance, can never meet my 6-year-old self swinging in a rusty swing, running over hopscotch squares in the open terrace, and see the bouts of my father's temper, the rituals of cigarette burning in our old veranda, footsteps swirling in the house, the first rains that bore flowers hanging from the boughs. In the remembered wind drift, our presents collide, and I stop, seasoned, ambivalent in your tracks, watching the cars blur into the swift obeisance of traffic, and a love poem for you, remembering my suburban skin and my ancestral ashes, the dusky rivers traipsing in between. And I'll just read 3 lines from another poem, which is about Calcutta, the yearning, the anguish. And it is almost as if she has written this in an anguished stupor, last wish. The last lines. Linger in my body and soul, linger in me, wafting like the enigma of friendship between elusive lights and darkness. I'll seek you, tethered to the reminiscences of my lost days, days which have dissolved in the crooks and bends of unnamed alleys. Linger in me like the 1,000 thwarted revolutions wrapped around my being, which never found their closures. Come to me when I turn into a corpse. Come and touch me with your magic wand as the flames of my fire burn. And a few lines from Home, from Priscilla's poem, Home. And she is talking in the same voice, same poetic voice as Lopa here. Home is the place where my grandma, Petra, lets me take a nap. And I wake up to the sounds of Cornelio Reyna and Remo Ayala music playing on an old kitchen radio. And there's always warm tortillas and fideo to eat in the afternoon. Home is where my tias, Irma, Olga, Mom Rosa, and Prima Rosina laugh in the kitchen and share stories. I remember when. Oh, remember that time when we had the ugliest dolls? Home is Leo's and Christiana's smile, is the sound of my mom's and dad's voice saying, Mija. Home is dancing cambias for the first time with my grandma Lorena, my first dance teacher. Home is the place where I saw my brother play basketball at the Juan Garcia Park, where spectator kids would run to catch foul balls and turn them into the concession stand for a free raspa snow cone. Home is the place. Home is the place where I went bike riding with my grandpa Oscar, where I worked at the family store during the summers. Home is watching my Grandpa Louis fat cat Frank with the big blue eyes get lost in the front yard plantitas. Is going to be Home is going to the Tandita, the corner store, with Grandpa Louis to pick up his Sunday newspaper. Home is the place where my friends still call me Prissy, where no one gets old, where grandpas and neighbors and cousins never die, and the boys and girls of summer throw water balloons at each other. Beautiful home, beautiful book, and beautiful poets too. Hats off to the two of you. And of course, the cover is beautiful too. Thank you so much for the indulgence.
Thank you, Santoshji. That was beautiful rendition indeed of beautiful poems. And now I will request Lopa to say a few words and tell us something about the book. And after that, I would request Priscilla also to talk about it. So, Lopa, go ahead. Please tell us something about your book.
Okay. Wow. First thing that comes to my mind is this book has completed 6 months of its journey, like after its publication. It was published in August, just a week before my birthday. And it like a very symbolic rebirth for me in a different way, because I've done books before, but first time collaboration with Priscilla, an Mexican American author. And like, as you can see, the book We Are What We Are has an interesting subtitle, which was thought out by me and then approved by Priscilla. It's We Are What We Are, Primal Songs of Ethnicity, Gender, and Identity. So you can gauge the subject matters into which we delved into. One is ethnicity, because me and Priscilla, we come from apparently diverse and multifaceted ethnic backgrounds. While I have my roots, my background in a very obscure town in the fringes of Kolkata, India, Priscilla has her roots away from America, but she grew up in Texas, and how her ethnic lineage, how it took shape, and how her ethnic understanding evolved. Am I right, Priscilla? That comes up in her writing. And when we converged, it was that thought that ethnicity and gender and identity, our gender as women, our gender as Indian born Bengali woman living in America, and Texas born multi-ethnic Latina woman, both joining in the and converging in the same book, like a river converges with the sea. That was our goal in making the book happen, and I think if not 100%, we are close to the goal. And then comes the identity part, which is embedded in our ethnicity and our gender. And We Are What We Are is a manifestation of seeking, of the quest of searching for our identities in this medley, or this like wholesome ocean of confusion, chaos, a state of limbo, and also searching for our roots in the mayhem of searching for our identity. And the way it has took shape, I want to add a few lines here and there to it, and Priscilla will say the rest of it. So when I started, I was writing poetry for a long time, as you know, you all know me for that. But then when I was delving into the spoken arts scene in Dallas, that came sometime around late 2016. So after that, in 2017, there was this feminist or like platform of women poets, which I got introduced to in downtown Dallas. There were these small like coffee shops and patisseries where women used to gather and read out poetry. It was in one of these platforms named Lucha Dallas, right, Priscilla? That was where Priscilla and I came to know each other and bonded through our poetry. And when I listened to her renditions of poetry, I got goosebumps. Why? Because though her subject matters were more rooted in her Mexican heritage and identity, I found so much of a kindred spirit that attracted me to the manifestation of my own roots. Like I found such a similarity and such solidarity in our voices. So then uh, first I didn't approach her because she was very busy and she was an arts activist of sorts, and she was running around with various different activities, and I was just a writer. So after a point when we got to know each other better, when we got invited in various forums and our poems converged with each other on the theme, the thoughts, and the overall narration, then I thought about approaching her for this collaboration, because I had quite a few poems in this collection, which is now written back then, like 2018-19 was the time when I approached her for this collaboration about our ethnic identities somewhere converging, and like what meaning and what dimension comes out of it. So that was a challenge, and I don't know whether we have passed the litmus test or not, but it was an experiment of sorts to merge my Indian Bengali voice, my Indian writing in English, with Priscilla's Chicana voice, which is like half partly Texan, partly Mexican, partly Latina, and forming a beautiful mosaic out of that. So how and like with what amount of expertise, what amount of dexterity we have been able to do it, it is up to the readers to judge. I can say that we did a very honest attempt. We had a very honest attempt at compiling and collating the poems and the essays. And I want to also stress on the fact that though I'm naming it a poetry collection, I'm actually it is out as a poetry collection, but there are certain monologues and a few essays also written by both me and Priscilla. Like I have 2 essays in the book, which is about not only my ethnic identity, but it is about patriarchy, which has chained me for a long time in India, especially during my childhood, my girlhood days. And it is both an indictment against patriarchy and also my tribute to patriarchy in a way. So I have handled how I have grown up and how I have found the ethnic consciousness and the gender consciousness of myself through this process of writing. It has been therapeutic and cathartic to me. And I'm very sure when Priscilla wrote her essay about her mixed identity, about discrimination that she faced in the American soil, she underwent the same emotions more or less. So am I allowed to read
No,
a few lines
we sorry, Lopa, we just have 10 minutes left,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
we
sure.
have
So
three
let
speakers left.
Priscilla speak about it then. Yeah,
Yeah.
it will suffice.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Lopa. What you said really, everything you said was correct, was spot on, and so beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself. And thank you all. Thank you all for inviting me to be part of this panel. In writing this, you know, when I first met Lopa some years ago, as she mentioned at the poetry gathering, I was just so blown away by her talent and her beauty and her her words. And I was like, wow, we have a poet like that in Dallas. That's amazing. You know, it's hard to believe she's just so talented and just so such an incredible and powerful writer. And I'm like, I must meet her. So that's how I got to meet Lopa, and I was very happy, and she was so accepting and gracious and just a lovely person. So, you know, I find, and I think these collaborations are important because it makes us understand, right, that really we're really not, I mean, our cultures, we're all the same. I mean, there's some differences, but there's so much parallelism, like in reading Lopa's work and in my work, you know, the themes like patriarchy and colorism and things that, you know, I feel that they're so deeply embedded in Mexican and Chicano culture, and I think Latino culture in general, not to stereotype, but it's just so embedded that people don't even realize that it exists. And I feel like it's you know, that people like us and even like younger generation are slowly kind of dismantling these layers and this thing that has been in our cultures for so many decades. And it gives me hope, you know, the words of Lopa and poets like Lopa really gives me hope that we can really start making changes in our communities and society through our words, through our art, as other people read it. One of the things that I've realized also is it's not just like, oh, it's important for me as an author. You know, Lopa gave me this opportunity. This is the very first book I've ever published. I've had work published before, but this is the first book. So Lopa gave me this opportunity, and I'm so incredibly thankful to her forever for that. So I've learned that, you know, in talking to other women that have read this book, and men too, women have been able to identify, you know, hear their voices in this book, you know, like, wow, that happened to me. And they start telling you their stories, you know, and I've heard this, you know, from Mexican American women, from Latino women, talk about Lopa's poetry as well. Like, you know, what happened to Lopa, I can identify that happened to me too. Or, yeah, I grew up like this. So it's just been a really beautiful journey to hear these different voices. I think that's what I've enjoyed the most, besides having this collaboration with Lopa, is also hearing people share their stories on how this book has impacted them, and it motivates them, like, hey, I want to write too. And I was like, you should. Our stories are powerful. Our stories as women, our stories as women of color. You know, I don't think we have enough of that in our country, women speaking up, of writing books like this. I know there's a lot of authors, but we need more. We need more women to share their voices, to share their stories, because we're here and we're not going anywhere. So anyway, I know that we have limited time, so I guess that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Priscilla. I also want to
Thank-
talk about accentism. Now, Satbir, can you please talk?
Yes. Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you for
Satbir Di.
yes,
Yes,
thank you
Dr.
so
Satbir
much.
Chadda.
Nice to see you, Priscilla. Nice to meet you for the first time. So, about this book, you know, the very first thing is that the title is a very powerful one. We are what we are. So, first of all, we accept ourselves, and you bloody well accept us. That's what it means to me, you know. And I like the title very much. And Lopa, I know her since long. She's an intense poet. Her poetry is rich in metaphors and imagery and is distinctly feminist. There are nostalgic verses too, and pondering over experiences. But anyway, I think I better just read a bit from the book so that you'll know. It goes ahead, says what she says. And Priscilla, I've seen, is a multi talented person with very deep emotions, deeply uh, uh, holds on to her concerns and really works about them. That's what feeling I got after reading you, Priscilla. I hope I'm right. Correct me if I'm not. And both of you share the pain of the same sort. So, uh, I will read a this short poem of Lopa, which is Remembering Kolkata. The oily musk, the slashing downpour, the fluttering wings, and the clipped freedom, the drumbeats of my skin, the glittering Christmas lights, Park Street, the embers of my thwarted wants, the smoke and soot laden air, the tea sellers of Maidan, the galaxy of friends, the myth versus the reality, the choking familiarity and chaos. I mean, I marvel at this work, the choking familiarity and chaos of cab rides, of hospital rooms, of the recycled ritual of death, the poetry of closures and catharsis, poetry that binds us all. You see how powerful this poem is, and it's so nostalgic. It's captured the whole essence of her childhood and her city. And hazarding the risk of repetition, I'm going to read just uh, a few lines from her other book, other poem, because it's like a juxtaposition what she's gone and felt in America. The same poem which Santosh read from, but a little less, love poem for America.
I
She says, I call you a
Okay, you
crystal.
just have a minute, Sadhvirdi, because
Tell me, tell me, Sunita, you want to say something,
let's
Sunita?
go ahead. You just have a minute. No, no, go ahead. I said you just have a minute.
I call you a crystal clear fluid coursing through my veins. Sometimes you give me walls to shut in and let me slide into devouring linens and smells of shadowy rooms, the ebb and flow of sex. So that is an image of America, and just say, uh,
Thank you so much, Sadhvirdi. That was indeed beautiful. And since
it,
there's a positive time, and we just have 1.5 minutes more. So let me end this by saying that it was wonderful reading your poems. And although I was planning to read Otherness by Lopa, which talks about, the people who, about, this was about a mental healing workshop, and Dos Mindos about two worlds from Priscilla. But we don't have time. So let me just say that it was a beautiful book which I read, and I thank each one of you. And it was so beautiful that both of you, coming from different ethnicities, could come together, collaborate, and bring about something so beautiful as this. So let me thank you, Priscilla, Lopa, Dr. Koshi, Dr. Santosh Bakaya, Sadhbirdi, for coming together for this launch and this book discussion. Although short, I think all of you gave your perspective, and I'm thankful to all of you. So,
for the final click.
yes, I hope there's somebody. I'm sorry I
Congra-
don't have the physical book.
Congratulations, Lopa, Priscilla. Wish you all the best with this.
Hearty congratulations. Hearty congratulations.
Congratulations. So, I think with this we come to the end of the event today. So, very good night and a good morning to Priscilla and Lopa. In your part of the world, it's the sun is shining bright while we are getting ready to go to sleep.
Our
So,
moon is rising and you're going to get your
yes, our moon is rising while their sun is there.
full
It was
moon will
great,
be tomorrow.
great meeting you. Great book. Thank you for the opportunity. Good night,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. God bless you
Good
Thank
all.
you.
night.
Thank
Got
you
Thank
it.
you.
to TSL for hosting this,
Thank
and
you,
you
all of
guys
us.
are just awesome, and you give space to so many writers like us, which is why I'm
It
so
is,
thankful to you.
we're just sorry we didn't have enough time and that has hindered us. But we're really sorry, but
Yes.
we hope you'll forgive us. Bye.
Bye,
Bye now.
everybody.
Good.
God
Goodbye.
bless you.
Bye, everybody. Nice meeting you,
Bye.
Priscilla.
Nice
Yes.
meeting you.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, you have to end it.
Okay.
It's
Bye,
still live.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.